Hey, good to be with you guys and ladies. Um, it's an interesting time. We're making the best of it and getting a lot of work done. We're still working through our WebEx um, app that we have on our iPads and computers, and it's our way that we can meet with the players for 2 hours per day and interact with them and still do our installs. So it's been good for us that way. We're not in office. We're in our basement still and homes, and so that's where I'm coming from and to you right now. So, anyways, with that, time's yours.
Okay, we'll start with Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hi, Andy. How you doing today?
Doing good, Adam. Thanks.
Good. Hey, wanted to get your thoughts on the proposal for the replacement or possible replacement for the onside kick, the fourth and 15 rule. Just your thoughts on that change in general, and if that rule is instituted, how do you think your team will fare under that rule?
Well, listen, I don't know if it's going to pass or not. I know the special teams coaches aren't real big on that. It takes away obviously one of the elements of theirs, and then it's also the kickoff, which has been under scrutiny here, and kickoff returns. So, to keep the integrity of the game, you like that part of it. On the other hand, if it does pass, and we've got a guy that can do fourth and 15s. I mean, he would give us an opportunity to be able to do that. So I've got kind of mixed thoughts on it. I would probably stick, being an old guy, I'd probably stick with the integrity of the game as it sits right now. But I can also see where the other part could be exciting too.
Okay, let's go to Herbie. Herbie, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you as always. Hope you're well.
Likewise, Herbie. You're the only one that's been able to keep his hair right. So.
Thanks, Coach. Hey, yeah. You mentioned the installs that you're going through right now, and phase 3 of the offseason workout program is typically for installs and learning. But how big of a challenge is it for you as the head coach and also your coaching staff to see how it's going? And the second part to that is, how does that affect what you typically like to see in a normal year out of the players at this time before camp, especially with training battles still to go? Position battles.
Well, yeah, the coaches have used, because we can't go on the field, the coaches have used unique, tools with them as far as maybe calling on a player to do an install, to install a play or whatever it might be. So for us, it's given all our coaches an opportunity to do installs as we go. Again, just to keep the focus of the player and to keep it fresh. Other than that, it's been great. I just phase 3 for us, we're kind of keeping the same schedule that we had before for the most part to this point. So we're going from 2 installs to 3 installs, and then we work from there. But again, we're still not able to be on the field.
Let's go to Matt Derrick. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Coach. You've talked before about coaching being a fraternity, and you haven't been opposed to going out and talking to other coaches for advice, and they come to you as well. I'm just curious, have you reached out to anyone, whether it be, a pro level, coach, college level, other sports, about coaches who have taken their teams to back-to-back championships and done that for just advice and maybe how you could navigate this?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I was lucky to be on a team that did that at one time. So I have that bank, but no, I have not, Matt. However, I have talked to a lot of coaches, but I haven't had that actual discussion.
Let's go to Aaron with KSHB. Go ahead, Aaron.
Coach, just as this conversation around fanless games evolves, I'm curious, obviously with the Chiefs playing in what they call the loudest stadium in the world, I'm curious if you think maybe the Chiefs are at a disadvantage if there are fanless games or capacity caps with the fans at the games.
Yeah, listen, I don't think. First of all, we love our fans. I mean, they are the loudest in the world, and it's ridiculous how loud it gets for our opponents. So, but on the other hand, we'll still go play, and it'll be kind of that way. There'll probably be a lot more talking with the players that you can hear. You know, those guys get pretty creative out there in their conversations. So, but the actual fans, we'll miss them if that's where it goes, but we'll still be able to function.
Let's go to Sarin Petro. Go ahead, Sarin.
Coach, thank you for the time. Along the lines kind of Aaron Donald was quoted yesterday as saying, you can't play the game without fans. I'm just curious first, you know, where you sit on that. I mean, the reality may be as we're seeing sports start that there are no fans. Or how would you weigh in on not having fans? And then how long can you go virtually prepping? Like at what point does, you know, rubber have to meet the road and pads have to go on and you know, you actually have to start hitting to really prepare for a real NFL season? Or can you do it all virtually and just be in close quarters only on game day?
Yeah, listen, I mean, we probably could do anything. I mean, and still put out a good product. I mean, that's how our mindset is as players and coaches. However, you sure would like to have the opportunity to get back on the field and do it. I think it'd make for a better game. As far as the fans go, you know, I understand what Aaron's saying. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't feel like it makes sense to be without fans, but it's also part of what we would all have to deal with if that's the situation that it comes to. My hope is that we can get everybody back out there and we can have a stadium full of people and we can go and everybody can stay safe. And that's probably the most important thing. Well, it is the most important thing as we go forward. So, and I'd say that same thing for your teams. All the teams around the world that are playing these different sports and are getting together now. I know safety ends up being the thing that's talked about the most, and that we make sure that we're doing that with our players.
Let's go to Sam McDowell. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Coach. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, Sam. Good. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Kind of to build off what Sarin asked, but I'm wondering if you could maybe offer specifics about exactly what you miss out on by not being on the field, what maybe concerns you most, whether it's one or two things, if you don't get enough on-field time with the guys.
Yeah, so I'd probably tell you timing of routes. I'd tell you break points on the secondary and linebackers. The offensive line is fundamentals and defensive line is more fundamental work. And then I think that you know, if you talk to medical people, that you understand that injuries can go up if you're not working change of direction or being tugged on, like a running back would be tackled and he's got to pull through a tackle. It has a tendency to up injuries. We saw that a little bit with the lockout here with Achilles tendons and that. So those things end up being important. But from a pure football standpoint, you know, it's your timing, your breaks, and the guys are still going to be competitive. They're going to do the best they possibly can do with whatever we give them. But it sure would help, I think, the injury area and also the game if we have a little build up to it.
Let's go to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Andy. Thanks
Hey,
again.
Nate. Yep.
You know, Steve sort of mentioned this earlier this week, but, you know, you try at this point to get a rough idea of what your rookie class can do, especially once you take them in the draft, because you've seen them on the field, whether it's in rookie minicamp or in the OTA period. With that not being the case, I'm just wondering if there's anything that you've learned about your rookies in this virtual remote process, and are there things you're starting to identify that you want to sort of implement or have them work on when you guys do get a chance to get on the field?
Yeah, so I have staff meetings and I still ask about the players and who's doing well and predominantly the rookies as far as learning, because I think if we can over emphasize the learning part of it now. Not that we don't, but we can really emphasize that now. That there's a chance it eliminates just an inch of that angst when they're on the field, where they can perform athletically or physically the best of their ability. So we're kind of putting a hammer down on that and working it and emphasizing it to the player. I'm getting good reports back from the coaches on the rookies. The guys are working their tail off right now. And, coaches give quizzes and all those things too, so you get an idea of feedback. And you just have the guy, I'd go, hey, Nate, why don't you explain to the guys 22Z and take us through it and detail it. So you get a feel there on exactly what the guys, what they know. And then with the rookies, you've got a couple extra hours that you can work with them. So the coaches have a little log time in there where they can get the rookies aside and visit with them.
Let's go to Karen Kornacki. Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing good, Karen. Thanks.
Thank you. Two things. One, Peter Vermees basically said, without fans, there's no home field advantage. And I wondered if based on all the things we talked about already, you feel that way. And the other thing is just that, have you heard of any precautions that the league may take that make you feel better about guys getting back together on the field, hitting, breathing and stuff? If you heard some things that the league is considering that you like?
Well, they're going through a lot of things, whether it's studies of other sports that are starting up around the world. They're keeping close track on that. I'm sure they've talked about I haven't been in the meetings, but I know they're meeting a lot on exactly player safety and fan safety. So I know whatever they come up with will be good. And it's also the union that works, or the players union also works with them on that. So they'll come up with a good solution. I don't know what those are right now, but I know it will be good once it happens. What was the other part of your question there?
The other part was just, we had talked about fans and their importance, but Peter Vermees basically said he doesn't believe if you don't have fans, you have no home field advantage.
Yeah. So there's home field advantage with the fans. There's home field advantage that you don't travel and that the facility and where everything lays on that field. So you have that part of it. But I would tell you, we'd miss the fans if that's the direction it goes. I mean, we got the best fans in the NFL, so we'd miss the fans. But again, when you're given these things, you have to go through and say, okay, this is what we've got, fellas, and you got to muster it up and go play and still do all that. So, and then if nothing else, we know our fans are watching. So. Because the Kansas City fans don't miss a beat. They'll make sure they know that they'll make sure that our players know that they're behind us.
All right, guys, we probably have time for a few more here, so we're going to go Adam, Sarin, and then BJ. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Andy, just wondering what you guys liked about Shea Patterson, and also what you got, how well you got to know him through this kind of distant coaching season. And one other thing, real quick. Pat's going to be, as you know, given that commencement speech tomorrow. As a guy who spent a lot of time in front of a microphone, what kind of advice do you have for him?
Yeah, well, I'll start with that one because I think that's a real neat thing that he's having an opportunity to do with Texas Tech. So he is passionate about sports. He's passionate about tech. And so I just think it's a neat thing that he'd have that opportunity to do it. And Pat's pretty cool cucumber there. He'll and he's a sharp kid and speaks well. So I think he'll have a nice presentation for him. But the main thing is just to relax and enjoy the moment. And, it's what a great experience it is. And then as far as Shea goes, I started chuckling when you asked because you got everything behind you, Michigan State, and here's a Michigan kid. You guys are like arch rivals. So, and we've got a lot of Michigan kind of background in our quarterback room there. Chad and Jordan actually and Shea played together. So at Mississippi, so they also know each other. But well, we'll see how he does, and it's an opportunity for him to make our football team, and that's how he has to look at it. It doesn't matter how you get in the door; you're in the door. Now, whatever you do with it, you do. You got to handle yourself the right way and work with it. But Jim Harbaugh spoke highly of him, and I trust Jim.
Okay, let's go to Sarin. Go ahead, Sarin.
Coach, I know for the most part, football is your focus, right? That's what you want to do. You're not wanting to do other things. Sometimes life runs into sports, right? And social issues run into sports, different things. The Rooney Rule has been talked about a lot this week again, and some of the proposed changes that were out there. And there's even some people calling it, maybe the Bieniemy rule, right? Eric Bieniemy is starting to become, the face of the league. He's a guy that has a position, certainly has the resume to be a head coach. I've heard your thoughts on it. I know where you kind of stand, but could you detail maybe what it does to Eric Bieniemy? I mean, he seems like you. He seems to just want to coach football. Not that he doesn't have, strong, passionate, ideas and values and things like that, but he seems to be a reluctant, front man, if you will, for this. But he's yet thrust into that role. How has that affected him as a coach, and what advice do you give him being thrust into that role?
Yeah, well, first of all, keep being you, right? So that's always the most important thing, and it's gotten him to this point. And he'll have an opportunity here as a head coach. But listen, I think anything that helps opportunity, I'm good with, as long as it doesn't put that person in a bind or disadvantage coming in, whatever it is. So I think in Eric's situation. And everybody that interviews, you're in there for only a couple hours with the owners, and so do they really get to know you in that time? And I wish there was an extended period of time that they could visit with you. And we're always cramming in, owners are always having to cram in these interviews, but to actually have enough time to get to know what the person is all about. And I think that becomes an important thing. The more you're with Eric Bieniemy, the more you appreciate him and understand him and know that he's a great leader of men. And so does an owner actually have that time, or are we rushing? And some of it's our schedule because of the playoffs. Are we rushing in and okay, I got to get these 3 interviews done, boom, 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 boom. And does that owner actually see the worth in that person interviewing? And so I worry more about those kind of things. I mean, Eric's had opportunities to interview, but it's always a bang bang thing, and you get a couple hours and then you're out. I mean, how well do you get to know a guy in a couple hours?
Okay, BJ Kissel, do you want to close this out?
Coach, again, thanks for everything. We appreciate your time.
You bet, BJ.
Just curious with the installs, particularly as it relates to the young guys. And I know you said that you've been getting reports from your coaches that have been going through that with them. I'm just curious, because of the challenge of already being a young guy, trying to play catch up and learn the system, what kind of either extra help have they been given, or are the install meetings set up differently between veterans and young guys? Just, I guess, logistically, how are you making sure those young guys are absorbing everything you're giving them?
Yeah, so we've tried to keep this time consistent. They've got a 2-hour period with the veterans. That's what you have. With the rookies, you have a 5-hour period that you can work with them. So we try to work in a couple extra hours for the rookies to meet. We were originally doing it with Dave Tobe and the coaches. So Dave got a little bit of special teams introduction to the guys, and then the coaches had them for a nice block of 2 hours. But anyways, you've got that extra time, and our coaches use that. So they get on with them, and in some cases, just 1 or 2 guys in a room. So they or whatever we're calling these rooms, but we're doing it this way here. So virtually, but it's they get that time, and right now for those kids, time's important, and your attitude and approach to that is important. Are you going to stay awake looking at this screen. Are you going to stay awake? We make them keep their face showing and not click off the camera. So we see them where that's a little bit of interaction there. One of the things we always teach the guys is when the coach is talking, try to make eye contact with them if you're not writing something down so that you stay focused on it. And whether it's on the field or in a meeting, eyes up and on the person that's speaking. So these guys they're doing that. We've had 100% participation, and they're cranking. I mean, they're going, and I've been very happy with that, their approach to it. So far so good.
Coach, we appreciate you taking the time today. Thank you so much.
All right, you guys be safe.